All right. Right. Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and we got
Mickey B. Fresh with a fresh mic.
nice. Yeah, Mickey's finally plugged back into the computer. You guys just let us know in the chat if we run into any audio issues since we got Mickey on a new Bluetooth headset. But other than that, hopefully everything should be running smoothly today. And nice summer Friday, Mickey. We got a very interesting hearing in regards to the SEC Ripple case. And just a brief summary, if you haven't been alerted via Twitter or wherever you get your information from, basically, Judge Sarah Netburn, who's presiding over the discovery part of the case, decided to rule in part on the SEC's motion to quash the deposition of former Director of Corporate Finance, Bill Hinman, who I think we are all very familiar with at this point. And basically, her ruling in part states that Bill Hinman is in fact a high-level government official, so he will have some privilege on to, what questions the SEC wants him to answer, so they can kind of, push back on Ripple questions. But the Ripple team and their lawyers are going to be able to depose Bill Hinman, under oath. So I think that's a really great first step. And on top of that, their judge kind of gave them some leeway with what they want to do here. So Ripple can either depose him on Monday or within a week from then, which I would assume would be the following Monday. The reason for this is because the SEC is going to probably not want him to answer a lot of questions, and she wants them to kind of, you know, uh, get down on what exactly that they can ask as to not waste everybody's time with that kind of stuff. So, Mickey, I'll pass it over to you with some thoughts.
Yeah, so the judge says she doesn't want them to depose twice. So they're going to try and get this done in one shot, and hopefully they could get some out of him. Now, he met with the Ethereum Foundation 2 weeks before having that speech in 2018. And we all know in that speech in 2018, he used the words I. He didn't use the words I. He said we and we are numerous times in the speech. And then after, when he went, I think it was on CNN or CNBC, then he also did a interview with Chris Brummer where he specifically, Chris Brummer asked, this is kind of like regulatory clarity for the industry. And Chris Brummer specifically said that. And I put out a tweet a few weeks ago of that actual interaction between him and Chris Brummer. And there was a whole industry, wide event there. And I think it was a fintech conference. And, that basically gave clarity. So the SEC wants to kind of backtrack. Oh, this wasn't the SEC who said this. And then it's like, well, Hinman just said that. So really what I think Ripple's doing here is they're presenting the SEC's basically, back and forth stance. And this is what they've done with crypto in general. And I think it's really painting a good picture, for their fair notice defense. And that's what this all comes down to, is Ripple's fair notice. That's what the whole case is going to be based on. And Ripple's ultimate win, I think, will come from fair notice here. And that's what will bring Gensler and the SEC to the settlement table, to where they'll have to settle if the fair notice defense is overwhelming and Judge Torres does not strike it. So that's what we're waiting for. I'm waiting for as XRP holders. And this is not financial advice or any type of tax advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, one of the big questions is, what kind of conversations did he have with industry players, and what led him to make those statements about Ethereum but not kind of lend those out to other cryptocurrencies? And then whether he meant the speech to be as personal thoughts or thoughts of the SEC. To me, what really matters is, did the industry players take that as clarity and kind of guidance for, okay, if you can meet this criteria that Ether does from his speech, are we good? So like, if a bunch of industry players were thinking that things were a-okay from that speech, then maybe it can kind of de facto be deemed guidance, which I think would be a huge hit to the SEC in this regard, and especially with the fair notice. I'll add on to this. So like, kind of going back, what do we know about Bill Hinman? We know he made this speech in 2018. We found out from some of the Ripple lawyers that a week before this speech, he met with Consensus, which you can liken to the Ripple of the Ethereum ecosystem. And then also he met with the Ethereum Foundation all a week before. What did they talk about? What kind of did the information he get lead him to say that stuff in that speech? Also, we know that his law firm that was paying him, well, I think pension payments or something like that, Mickey, for years while he was at the SEC, they work for the Ethereum Alliance. And then, we know about they have ties with Chinese mining firms. And then, finally, he comes out and has this speech and kind of just leaves it open in the air. The SEC still to this day denies that they have made any kind of decision on, Bitcoin or Ethereum on whether they're securities or not. So, a lot of bad optics going around. And I think people are starting to pick up on this. I'm seeing, a lot of chatter about, Hinman's role and his associations with Ethereum.
Yeah, this is very bad optics for the SEC. If anything, it just looks bad. They did not want him being deposed here. And even if anyone's seen Jeremy Hogan's video, he even said it seems like there's something that the SEC is hiding here. Yeah. And not to sound conspiratorial, even like what Jeremy Hogan said, that there probably is. His meetings, somebody had to approve that speech in the SEC. He also met with Ethereum. What did he decide that was sufficiently decentralized? He never explained or gave specifics of what is decentralized. Now, we all know with the XRP ledger, just because Ripple holds a lot of its native tokens, even if they're in escrow, it does not give them any control over the consensus, and it does not give any control over the governance of the network. And those are two very important key components here that makes it so that centralization doesn't occur because you have a lot of the tokens. But in proof-of-stake networks, if XRP Ledger was a proof-of-stake network and Ripple held that much, it would be a huge deal, because then they would have control over the governance. They would have control over the consensus. But it's not. It's a federated Byzantine agreement. So it's a different type of network. So how do you judge what is more decentralized and what is not? Because obviously we know when announcements were made of Ripple and RippleNet, the price went nowhere. So it's going to be very hard, I think, for the SEC to ever prove that any of Ripple's efforts really moved the price of XRP, because we were sat here for 2 years in a bear market, and we all knew when there were announcements, nothing happened, and everyone complained about that. So I think their case is going to be very difficult to prove, even if the fair notice doesn't go through. But my opinion in this scenario, that as long as Ripple goes to the end, they're going to win. It's very unlikely, like 99.9% chance, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, that they could lose. There's no possible way, because XRP physically can't be a security if it's out there already. You didn't even get it from Ripple. They didn't even issue it, number one. And then Brad and Chris, how could have they knowingly sold a digital security when you got this high-ranking official over here then saying Ether's not a security, XRP is just like it, and didn't have an ICO? So those two things right there should be thrown out at some point. The only really thing that comes down to here is, did Ripple sell those as investment contracts early on? But you could say the same thing about Ethereum. They had an ICO before the network was even live. They raised funds. At least Ripple sold XRP after the network was live, like it existed already. So that's a key difference there, and I think they haven't even got to the point where they're going to be able to litigate and argue, and I think that's coming. But we should see the end at Discovery here. I don't think it's going to go too much longer. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I know we were talking yesterday after we listened into that call, and you were kind of like, it's just like, how much longer can they carry on with this? Like, it really seems like the
Mm-hmm.
SEC was hoping they would just bend over right at the beginning and, pay
Exactly.
whatever penalties they were going to. And, Ripple didn't do that. They probably were pissed off from talking to them for many years and trying to get clarity and understanding on what's going on. And interestingly enough, so I believe, what is it, Hester Pierce and Elad Roisman, two of the commissioners at the SEC, recently came out with some statements around like the SEC and regulation of cryptocurrencies and everything. And John Deaton and like the Crypto Law Twitter account, and I believe it's James Filan, who have been really covering this case well. They were talking about how in this statement that Hester Pierce and Roisman put out, that they basically are saying that the SEC seems basically unwilling to give any kind of guidance as to any kind of securities offerings around cryptocurrencies at this point, which to me is a huge deal. Because they're basically saying, no fair notice there, like for anybody, and they're two commissioners at the SEC. So, whether that was an error on their part or something they did on purpose, I don't really know for sure. But it's definitely not a good look for them when some of their commissioners are saying, yeah, the SEC is just not willing to give guidance on anything, which, guidance is really the crux of the fair notice to me. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
if they're not out there saying, hey, you guys need to do X, Y, and Z to make sure that we don't crack down on you, or hey, if you're doing this, we are going to crack down on you, or any of that kind of stuff. Like, all they've done is kind of just blanketly chosen some random projects to go after. And we've seen many, many, many projects do ICOs at this point. So it's not even like there's, a small grouping that's done it. And yet they go after, XRP, which didn't have an ICO. Sure, you can argue about how they created the XRP ledger. The XRP was pre-minted, and then a lot of it was given to Ripple when they formed that company. You can argue about that all day. I think that's fair, but they didn't have people invest in the network in order to fund its building. Like, they just went, Arthur Brito and Jed McCaleb basically built the ledger without doing that kind of stuff. So, like, to me at least, it seems a step better than doing an ICO. Like, maybe it's not perfect in the SEC's eyes, but it's just, a lot of contradictions. And I kind of agree what Hogan was saying. They seem pretty desperate. They were trying to liken the deposition of Hinman to the 9/11 case, which, I mean, maybe it had merit, but to me, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. They're bringing this into this conversation. And then
Yeah.
also, what was really cool was to see the judge basically say, look, I do think this is an extraordinary case. And one of the reasons is because she can see how much people care about it around the world, and especially in the US. And what was it yesterday? I think there was like 4,000 people on the call. I mean, that's all of us, probably a lot of us in this group. And to me, it's really hard to see a future where present day XRP is considered a security. You know, if they want to say Ripple sales in the past, some of them were securities and find them, like, you know, I get there's some arguments to be made there for sure. But, you know, what we have today is not a security in any way. And I mean, we even did like a video like a couple months back on how many nodes Ripple has and validators in the ecosystem. I think it was like 15% at the time. I think it's closer to like 5 or 6% now. So, I mean, it just keeps getting more and more decentralized at this point. So it's like, you know, what else are you supposed to do?
Exactly. And now those tokens that Ripple sold early on, XRP had no value. So that's another important thing to realize here. When the XRP ledger was created,
Yeah, it was really
there
cheap.
was no value in the XRP. So there was nothing. It didn't exist. So they didn't know it was going to be worth billions. They didn't know it was going to be worth millions or anything. They created those unmined tokens, but they had no value. And the network was up and running. So that's one argument there. Now I just want to go back to the other thing here. What I think this whole case is really about. It's about the disclosures, and that's what the SEC has always wanted, you know, Ripple to do, was register with them so that any sales or any gifts of XRP that Ripple made was under the registration or disclosure of the SEC, and Ripple would not agree to that and bow down. And that's what this whole case is really about. And we don't hear that talked about much, but that's really what is at the crux of everything here. It's what the case began. I don't think it's about, you know, XRP being a security. I think SEC threw that in to just pressure Ripple. And it is about the escrow. It's not about giving away the escrow. It's not about making it illegal for retail to hold XRP. That's all bullshit, in my opinion. All of it. It's just nonsense, and it just should be ignored. What this is about is Ripple's use of the escrow. That's what it's all about. Not about paying off debt. It's about how they use it. And one way they're able to use it now is through the Ripple line of credit. They're able to loan out. They're a credit facility. So they have this power to loan out the way like a central bank or a bank loans out fiat. Ripple could loan out XRP at no cost, and then they get paid back in fiat. And they're doing this right now in the face of the SEC. And the SEC can't do anything about it when they're doing it in Singapore, when they're doing it in Japan, when they're doing it in the UK, where there's clarity for XRP. So they're able to do this right now, you know, in the face of the SEC, outside of the jurisdiction, and it's totally legal. And Ripple's using that fiat, then, I think, to create liquidity pools and build out their network. That's why the escrow will not be burned. It will not be handed over, because it's meant to be used to bootstrap the network, just like every other cryptocurrency on the planet. How is the native token used? It's used to reward miners, used to reward validators. Well, Ripple's using the native token in a different way, but the concept is the same. It's an incentive mechanism design to bootstrap a network and incentivize certain behavior. And that's, they basically put it in wallets for RippleNet members to then use and eliminate that first mile of the RippleNet ODL transaction. So now ODL 2.0, they already have the wallet. They can license them this custodial wallet, probably through PolySign or standard custody, and put XRP in it and say, hey, pay back the fiat whenever you want. And it doesn't cost Ripple anything. That's the advantage of the escrow. Like, we have to understand that's the advantage. It's not to pay off debt, and it's not that it's value in monetary value. It's in how it can be utilized to bootstrap the network and give ODL, RippleNet, and even just the XRP ledger an advantage, and Ripple themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go into the chat a little here, Mickey. So I saw Michael McDaniel popped in, and he said, "Where there's
Hey,
smoke,
Michael.
yeah, I know. Hope you're doing well, man. Where there is smoke, there is fire. This is going to get bad for the SEC. I bet they lose their control over crypto because of this, at least the control they think they have. And that's, you know, I think that definitely could be at play here, especially if this blows up in their face." And then additionally, I saw another good one. Oh yeah, so Raymond L was saying the judge hinted at them to come to agreement. I think she wants it settled. I kind of agree with you there. She definitely, like, towards the end of that call, when they started, you know, deliberating about how they would go about this, it seemed like she wants them to get more on the same page and kind of, you know, get this figured out, because it seems like they're just going to go around in circles at this point. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a very valid point there.
I think we're getting closer to that point, but you're right. It is weakening the power of the SEC, and the fair notice really will be the ultimate like knockout blow for the SEC if that happens, because then they won't be able to go against any other cryptocurrency because they'll all cite the Ripple case and say, well, they didn't have fair notice. So I think they're not going to want it to come to summary judgment with that, and they'll want to settle beforehand. And I get this question a lot, Patty. Let's bring this up. Well, will XRP have clarity if can the SEC just walk away? Or if they settle, will it still get clarity? I don't think the SEC could walk away. That's not, I don't think, legally possible when you file an enforcement action. So they can't just walk away. And they couldn't come back when an enforcement action anyway. And now, two, when it comes to the settlement, any type of settlement, you would have to think that Ripple would demand basically that XRP have full clarity in it, right? I would think they would never accept a settlement without that.
Yeah, and no restrictions on their escrow, or at least some,
Mm-hmm.
no level of restrictions
Exactly.
that could limit them to what they want to do, ultimately. And I'll throw in with there, like, if the fair notice, like, let's say we get summary judgment on fair notice, well, that would also give clarity because you have double jeopardy and they can't come back, with the same
Mm-hmm.
charges essentially in the future. So there definitely are different ways for this to go down where it turns out, well for XRP for sure. And I do want to, so somebody had a Flare question here. Oh, where was it? I just saw it. Oh, okay, yeah. So Cowabunga Joe is asking, has anyone taken a look at Martin Volk's strategy for Flare and Flare Finance? Very interesting. Yeah, so I took a little look at that, and I'm definitely like on the same page with him as far as trying to utilize some of these different components of like Flare Finance to just continually compounding the yield. However, one thing he didn't address, and maybe he did and I just missed it, was with Flare Farm, the only token that you can just individually stake in Flare Farm to earn YFIN is going to be YFLR. Otherwise, all the other Flare farm pools, you will have to be a liquidity provider in Flare X in order to get LP tokens so that you can stake them in Flare Farm. And for all those pools, YUSD is one of the pairings against it. So you will have to either, source YUSD via a loan, mint it on your own. However, they're going to have that system set up on Flare Finance. We don't know yet. That's coming in the second white paper. Or you could potentially go and buy it from one of those pools if they're already filled up. So that's just one extra thing I wanted to add on, like a caveat, just so people know that like you can't directly stake FXRP in Flare Farm to earn YFIN. I know if you participate in the early beta that they did allow that, but they were basically they were doing a social experiment during that to see, what kind of people are they dealing with in regards to like their sophistication with DeFi. How would they act, especially compressing everything into a short period of time with a bunch of swings? So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, so that's really important here. And the word staking, I think, is extremely misleading. The only staking that actually takes place on the Flare network is if you stake Spark in the F asset system. That's it. Then on Flare Finance, the only staking that exists is like what Patty said, the LP token. You can't just take your FXRP and say, oh, I'm going to stake it on Flare Farm and earn YFIN. No, that's not how it works. So, I do give credit to Martin Volk for putting that out, but at the same time, it's very important to have accuracy in, setting up a strategy. So understanding how all these different protocols work is very important. So, somebody might sit here saying, oh, I'm going to take all my FXRP and put it in Flare Farm. And then you realize, wait, I can't do that. That's not how it works. So it is important to understand how liquidity pools work. It's going to take time, and there's going to be beta testings for these. Flare Network is not going to launch in the next few days. So we're going to get time to do beta testing and to practice for this. So I think it is a little early. In our Patreon group, we discuss the strategies and we really go in depth on them. And Patty has made spreadsheets and we really talk about them in depth, on the factual basis of the information we have right now. But at the same time, we still have a beta testing and a testing phase to go. So they're not going to just launch and everyone's going to be thrown out there and trying to figure it out. So that's still coming. So I just want to prepare everybody for that.
Cool. Yeah. And to take this back to the chat some, somebody just asked a question. Oh, somebody was asking about us like reviewing projects that they're interested in. I mean, you can always,
Oh,
send us something, but the thing is, we're very focused on Flare and DeFi right now just because that's coming to our doorstep soon. So like,
well,
maybe in the future more, or if it's something that really strikes our eye that we want to dig in immediately. I just don't want to give any promises around that. So I get what you're asking there. And if
no, but
you
I will say, Patty, one thing project that we both do like is Polkadot.
uh-huh.
That's one project we both have like started to look into a little bit. So just to throw that out there. Maybe in the future we'll do some videos on it, but not yet.
I definitely want to because there's a future of interoperability between Flare and Polkadot, and
Exactly.
that's something we can definitely make a dedicated video around. We've kind of been reading through the documentation more recently, and Polkadot has a lot of interesting things going on. So, like one thing that I didn't really realize until I started reading is the main Polkadot chain isn't going to actually have smart contracts on it. Rather, all of their parachains, which you could liken to what the XRP ledger is doing with the side chains, you can implement smart contract logic on those. So that's like one interesting thing I've found out so far. But I did see, so James Rule XRP is in here, and he was asking about the difference between F assets and Y assets. So F assets are basically the blockchains that the state connector system is going to integrate with. So right now, the F assets are going to be XRP, Litecoin, Stellar, and Dogecoin. One thing to notice, those are all native assets of their network. I think F assets are much more likely to be like the native asset of a settlement layer blockchain. That would be one thing. And then Y assets are something that Flare Finance is doing. And basically, they have a protocol called Flare Wrap that will connect with some other network and then lock the assets from that network in a smart contract, bridge it over to the Flare Finance ecosystem, and then allow you to utilize the tokens there while they're locked on the native network. So it works differently than the F asset system. And I would say it's not as trustless because you're not going to have like this whole dynamic system that's kind of facilitating the movement of value between it and utilizing the validators on the integrated chains. However, you're going to have I don't know if you would call them nodes or something that will be handling the smart contract wrapping and stuff, but you'll be able to use those assets in the Flare Finance ecosystem. I don't know if they'll be able to leave the Flare Finance ecosystem. Maybe in the future, but there's not a lot of other projects they could go to. The only one I can think of is maybe Trustline at this point. So we'll kind of have to see how that evolves. Also, the Y assets don't have access to like the daily rewards coming from the F asset pools. So I would liken them to light F assets. So just like a little lighter form of them. But yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mickey.
Yeah, just that I would consider the F assets are fully trustless and the Y assets are semi-trustless, and the F assets come with yield. And they're kind of built into the layer one of the Flare network. But it's nice to see that Flare Finance is bringing over all those wrapped assets because basically it just adds on to what Flare networks the whole thesis is to unlocking value. So F assets unlock value, and so do the Y assets. They unlock this value of Casino Coin, Pack Protocol, XDC. All that value is going to get unlocked into Flare Finance's DeFi, and that means that's 5 to 6 different protocols there to unlock that value. So ultimately, it's the same concept as unlocking value. I think F assets are considered more of a premium asset than Y assets on the Flare network because of their yield and their trustlessness.
Nice. And then let's see. Franz was saying, I'm reasonably sure I read that Flare Finance will only have LPs and no single asset staking of YFlare from the get-go as opposed to the beta test. So I mean, I could tell you for a
One
fact we
pool.
have I have a screenshot or a table I created based on the Flare Finance white paper on our website. It's on our tokenomics page for that. That shows that they have one single-sided Flare farm pool, and it's specifically for YFLR. So that's the only one, and it's in their white paper. So you could definitely check that out to double check me.
So
Additionally, oh
why
yeah, go
is
ahead.
it, Patty? Why is
Oh,
it?
okay, yeah.
Explain why is it that there is no single-sided pools, and why is it that there are these two-sided liquidity pools that they're making everyone go into to earn fin? Why fin? Why is that?
Yes. So one of the issues with okay, let's start off with this. Having a crypto to stablecoin liquidity pool is very important. I think you guys can all imagine why. People are going to want the ability to lock in gains, or if they just want to move out of the market for a time period and have a relatively stable asset that's pegged to the US dollar. And when I say relatively stable, it's because inflation and stuff, so the US dollar value will change, but that token will mirror the US dollar value. If people don't have this, then they have to exit the system entirely and go back to fiat in order to get out of their crypto position. So the way to keep people in the system is through a stable coin. But what does this mean in regards to the YFIN? So when you are in a dual token liquidity pool with, let's say, FXRP to YUSD, the likelihood of suffering impermanent loss is much higher. And that's because impermanent loss is occurring when the initial price ratio that you enter into the liquidity pool at diverges either direction. Impermanent loss is going to occur. So obviously the stable coin is going to stay at the same price. So that means any move in FXRP starts incurring impermanent loss immediately. However, for a little while, it's really not that much, like less than 10%, but once you start getting to multiples to the upside is when you start seeing more impermanent loss. And in order to counteract that and get people to provide liquidity into those pools, they're using YFIN to incentivize that. So, if there was no YFIN for people to get from those pools, they would have extremely low value and volume in them, I would imagine, which just isn't conducive for DeFi
Well, it would only
ecosystem.
be the fees then that you would
Yeah,
earn.
which it's just not enough, at least in my opinion, and I think Flare Finance has the same opinion, which is why they're doing it this way.
Hmm.
So it's why FIN is going to be I think it's going to be a pretty premium asset that a lot of people want. But the thing is, you need to take on a little more risk, or if you want to call it opportunity cost, in order to get it. So I think it makes sense, and it's just kind of aligning with what the incentives should be to guide people's behavior essentially. So the people that want to take that risk of impermanent loss, they'll be getting the YFIN from the Flare farm. However, there are other ways to get YFIN. So you can be a borrower or lender on Flare loans. You'll get YFIN for doing that for 2 years. And then also for being a insurance provider or a covered entity in the Flare mutual protocol, you will also be able to get YFIN from that. And then finally, you will in the future be able to take your YFLR and stake it in the governance staking pool, and some of the yield is going to be delivered in YFIN. So you could actually get, up to this point, it's probably like 30 assets, different types of assets in the governance staking pool, because Kakibo, which is the APY cloud yield aggregator, that is going to be taking a percentage of the fees and payments made on each of the individual protocols, feeding them into the governance staking pool to pay people for that fixed yield you're getting. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, to really earn YFIN, you're going to have to participate in those liquidity pools. And now, let's just take an example. Say you were putting FXRP and YUSD in the liquidity pool in the last 2 months. You would have gained FXRP by that. Since the price has depreciated slightly, you would have more FXRP now than when you started in the liquidity pool. So even though the value of your assets have gone down over the last 2 months, you'd have more FXRP. So impermanent loss works kind of both ways. The USD value usually stays fairly the same, but if the price did appreciate a lot, you would have then just less FXRP. But remember, there's 4 F asset pools with YUSD. So it's not just one. Now each F asset pool is going to earn you the max amount of YFIN from the Flare farm. So those 4 pools, so say it be FLTC in YUSD, FXLM YUSD, FDoge YUSD, and FXRP YUSD. Those four pools will earn you the most in the first 6 months. So if you really want to earn the most YFIN, you're going to have to participate in those four pools. And that also means you're going to have to get a hold of YUSD. Now, you can't just take your FXRP or FDoge and say, I'm going in a liquidity pool. You need the equal amount of YUSD. So this is important to the whole strategy here. It's not just so simple as like, yeah, I'm just going to stake and earn YFIN. It's very different than that. So I think that's important to remember here. And, we're going to have a beta testing to practice this, but it is more complicated than just say I'm staking and, I'm earning YFIN. It's not that easy, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'll kind of add on to this. I mean, so you may be thinking, oh man, am I going to have to sell some of my FXRP to get YUSD and do this? And I mean, yeah, that's a possibility. You could also take out a loan from Flare Loans to get the YUSD. So there are different ways to do it. And obviously, like, with anything, if you have more money or like more XRP already or whatever asset you're trying to go into, I mean, it's going to be easier for you to take an allocation of your current FXRP and transact that into YUSD. So, I mean, if you don't have a lot, maybe it's not the best option for whatever ROI that you're looking for. So just realize there'll be different options for different people to do different things. So it's not like a one size fits all, and it really has to like align with what your personal goals are and what your personal risk tolerance is and what kind of capital you have in your hands to go about that. So Mickey, I do want to take it over to one thing just because we noticed some confusion. So for anybody that doesn't know, the Spark token is is going to be the native asset of Flare Network. However, similar to what Ether, which is the token of Ethereum, is, Spark is the same thing, and it means that if you want to have some of these powers, like delegating your votes, you'll just have to put a smart contract wrapper on it. Now, one thing we don't know at this point is if that will happen automatically in the background. Hugo commented on this at one point, and he said that he thinks that this is something that could just take place in the background without us knowing it. If it doesn't, you'll just have to click a button that says, wrap my Spark, and then you're able to delegate that FTSO vote. Now, this, kind of facts about the network led people to wonder, if you have your Spark token wrapped in a smart contract, can you still get the DaoFlare airdrop, so DFLR, and that's the token you'll swap into YFLR for the airdrop coming from Flare Finance. And yes, if you have your Spark token wrapped, you'll still be able to get that. So, the exact mechanics of how that's going to work, we don't know yet. The code's not out yet. Nothing's finalized from, these firms that are building these projects. So it's just something to be patient with and finding out. But just know, if you're delegating your Spark vote to a signal provider, you're still going to be eligible to receive that Flare Finance airdrop. So hopefully, if anybody had that question, that should help out.
Yes. So delegating your vote is no risk. So that's the one thing. There's no slashing risk. There's no giving up your private key risk. You're able just to wrap this token, delegate it to a signal provider, and you earn the rewards directly from the FTSO. You don't even have to trust them with distributing it to you. You're just trusting them on the accuracy of their price feeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could change, which is nice. You're not locked in. So a lot of staking, you're locked in. You got to unbond for 21 days. What's nice about the FTSO, you could switch from day to day whenever you want. And you could have 3 different signal providers and just switch per day to a different one if you like. So that's nice. So it definitely gives a nice flexibility and no risk.
So Kim J's asking, any minimum to stake? I mean, I don't know of any minimums right now. And, it's going to be dependent on what protocol you're going in. So, for the...
What are we staking?
Yeah, so governance staking.
No
pool,
staking.
Yeah, so staking is something that gets used a lot in DeFi, just for anything in general. It's like, oh, you put your assets in there, you're staking. So, it's kind of hard to answer when you just ask like stake, like where are you talking about putting your assets? Okay, so yeah, here's another one. Okay, yeah, so Calixto, how many single LP pool staking options will there be for Flare Finance? All right, that's a little more specific. So there's no single-sided liquidity pools. there is only a single token Flare farm pool that lets you earn YFIN, and the asset you can stake there is YFLR. So that's the only one. When you're bringing your XRP onto the Flare network or your XLM or your Litecoin, that is going to be called minting. So that's not staking. So there is no set in stone fee. Originally, it was going to be 5%. Now it's going to be determined by the market forces of supply and demand, which Hugo and his team are hoping is going to bring down the creation fee. So there's no set creation fee. It's going to be set by a bidding system. So as more people want to mint F assets and maybe there's not as much collateral, then the fee is going to go up. As less people want to mint F assets and there's more collateral available, then the agents are going to lower their creation fee in order to get people to bid on that and actually mint F assets. So hopefully that can help with that.
Yes, that was a good explanation, Patty, because
Yeah.
you're not staking your XRP technically and then minting FXRP.
Yeah.
That's not taking place.
Yeah. Let's see any other questions here that I can answer. Okay, so once XRP Joe, are you guys familiar at all with Sanshu Inu? It's going on Flare Finance. That's why I asked. So I'm not. Maybe somebody in the chat can comment, or maybe they did since this is higher up. But basically, I believe it's kind of involved in the Shiba Inu ecosystem. So it's a meme coin. They allowed 2 meme coins to be wrapped onto the network, which is Sanshu and then Shiba Inu as well.
I love how you assume that I just didn't know.
Oh, did I?
Oh
yeah.
I
Oh
didn't
no,
know anyway.
I think we've talked about it. I think you asked me one time, and I was like, "Yeah, I think it's a meme coin with Shiba." Yes. So Sergio, lending on Flare loans will give you YFIN rewards. So actually, I'm gonna pop something up real quick here, Mickey, and show people the distribution of the rewards. Y'all give me 1 sec here if you want to talk about anything, Mickey.
I can't see the chat from the screen,
That's all right.
unfortunately.
I've almost got it up. Cool.
Well, yeah, the staking thing. So just that staking word I thought was just important because there is staking, but it's if you have Spark and you're staking in the F asset system, that's where the staking word should be kind of used. I just think we need to keep the terminology, the same so that we don't have confusion. That's why I'm just like very adamant about, don't use the word staking where it doesn't apply.
Yeah. All right. So I got this. We have a table on our website. So this is from the DeFiStandard.com. We have a Flare Finance tokenomics page if you guys want to check that out. And this is the allocation of YFIN in the Flare Farm application. So we're going to have one single token pool for YFLR. You can see that has the lowest rate because the only risk here is trusting the protocol, which you do with every blockchain network you get on. So, you can stake YFLR in there and you're going to be able to take it out and it's going to have, you'll get the same amount of tokens back. Now, if the price changed, obviously it'll have, the new price, but that's one thing, and that's why it doesn't have to be incentivized as highly. Now, as you can see, we're going to have a Spark and a YFlare to YUSD pool, and both of those are going to get 672 YFIN. So those are a little more higher rate there, but not as high. Then we're going to have a YFIN to YUSD liquidity pool with a 3x rate from this base one of 1000 YFIN. And then you can see what Mickey was saying earlier, that the F asset to YUSD pools have the most incentives. And I will add in, this equates to 8,000 YFIN that's going to be delivered through the Flare Farm protocol. And in the first 6 months, 4,000 of the 8,000 is going to be delivered. So the rewards are like from a participation standpoint and from how they're distributing it are going to be highest in the beginning. That's just a matter of fact here. And to add on to that, you're going to have Flare loans and Flare Mutual that are each going to get 1,000 YFIN going to both of those applications, and it will follow the same distribution schedule as the Flare Farm one. And so that means 500 YFIN are being delivered to Flare Mutual and Flare Loans participants in the first 6 months of network launch. So one of the cool things is you can take out a loan on Flare Loans and earn YFIN for it. That's going to be dependent on how many people are involved in the Flare Loans protocol and how much value they have in it, but you will earn some YFIN from doing that. So I think that's really powerful. Cool.
Well said.
Yeah. Let's see. We're about almost 50 minutes
Patty's
in.
our
So let's see.
DeFi mathematician.
Yeah. I got to pre-calc in college.
Well, it helps with this stuff. I mean,
yeah, enough.
this is the early days. This is why we're early pioneers, and figuring out all this is very difficult, and it's not easy, and it's complex, and it's complicated, and it's confusing, and I know many of you don't understand right at first. But the more that you pay attention and learn about DeFi now, this is the future. So if you can understand now how it works and how it operates, it'll help you make better decisions in the future, instead of just sitting around waiting for moon. This is something you kind of have to learn the tech, but it's not even learning the tech. It's like learning the new financial system. That's what DeFi is. These are automated smart contracts that just allow things, new financial products to be created, really. That's what's going to happen here with the composability, with tokenization, DeFi, NFTs. They're all going to come together. So now's the time to learn and really understand this. And it's not easy to learn at first. And I know it's over a lot of people's head, but one thing that I'm really happy about is that seeing the comments in a lot of the videos of many of you who have caught on to this. It's really encouraging. So that's good to see. And I know it's all new to the XRP community especially, but it's something we just got to kind of dig into and just accept that this is here. It's not about ISO coins and it's not about moons and price sets. It's about DeFi and tokenization. That's the future.
Yep. And let's see, I'm going to try and cover a few questions I see popping up here before we wrap up, Mickey. But yeah, so anybody asking about our comments on Martin Valk's video, we talked about it earlier, so we're not going to rehash that. You can check it out on the replay. Then additionally, let's see, somebody was asking about Spark price. And I mean, to me, it's probably going to be somewhere in the range of 10 cents to 50 cents. I think if the market continues to go down by the time Flare launches, that's going to lower what the price it comes out at. So I'm very much using comparables and looking at what kind of projects and what their market caps are. We're going to have 15 billion Spark. Technically, it all won't be released in the ecosystem, but it'll start being placed. There will be close to 9 billion, though, with XRP holders and the Flare Limited team that can be used at will. So, if it's at $1, that would be like at least a $9 to $10 billion market cap, which is really high starting out. Maybe that's a fair valuation. I just think it's a lot to hope for. Okay, here's a good one, Mickey. Do you want to take from Steve Stafford? What can you do with your Spark after launch, but before F assets are able to be minted other than the FTSO?
Okay, so Flare Finance will be live after the Flare network launches. So you will be able to use it in some of their DeFi protocols. So you'll be able to use it in some of the liquidity pools. So there'll be like a Spark YUSD liquidity pool. Now you'll be able to simultaneously delegate your FTSO vote while using it in a liquidity pool or using it in Flare loans and borrowing against it. You'll be able to use it in those too. I'm not sure what other Flare Finance protocols will be live, but I believe they said those two will be. The liquidity pool and the Flare loans. But honestly, we don't fully know yet. Just right now, it's the FTSO, but I would say that's a to be announced type of thing. They also said there's going to be a liquidity event. So there'll be some type of event that will take place over like a week or two where there'll be boosted rewards where you could utilize your Spark and also delegate to the FTSO. We just don't know exactly what that's going to be. So that's a really good question. So stay tuned. We just don't fully know yet, but there will be some way you can use it, yes.
And then, so Flare Loans and Flare Mutual, there's no information in the white paper. They said that's going to be out in the second version. And also, before wrapping it up, I just wanted to bring up, I've had a few people reach out to me about this spreadsheet floating around about FTSO rewards. It's showing you're going to make millions of dollars. It looks
Ugh.
highly inaccurate. The only way I imagine you making millions of dollars off the FTSO in the first year is if you already have millions of dollars in Spark. So I just don't want people.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, somebody sent it to me, and when we did like the gaming live stream, brought it up, and then I had a couple people reach out on Twitter. So yeah, please be reasonable about what you're going to expect. There's definitely, you know, a chance to earn a good amount of rewards, but you need to, you know, we can't be, you know, hopium about this. It's, you know, it's not going to be something like that insane where it's going to make everybody millionaires. It's just not reasonable, and no system can work like that. At least
No,
that
but
we've
what
seen.
it can do,
Yeah.
it could allow you to accumulate
Yeah, the
a
Spark
good
token.
amount of Spark
Yeah.
early on. Exactly. And the value of Spark might not be too high early on, but you'll be able to accumulate a good amount of it without actually having to pull any fiat out of your pocket and having to invest. And then as the value of Spark appreciates, you'll already have this you'll kind of think of like having your own personal flywheel that's spinning, and it's just accumulating Spark with the FTSO. Now when you mint F assets in, you're accelerating that flywheel by adding more Spark to it. So when you mint FXRP, now you're getting daily Spark every day, and that will be added to your compounding of your FTSO Spark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's wrap it up there, Patty.
Cool. That sounds good. Well, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Pleasure talking with you guys. We'll see if any more, you know, Ripple case updates come out, and there's supposed to be updates very soon from the Flare team with a big surprise in quotes. So we'll see what that is. This is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP.
And I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
And we are out. See you guys.
Have a good one.